Hi, my name is Ralph Lowe. I am the soon-to-be Associate Minister for Justice here at the Pittsburgh Presbyterian, and I'm here with my sister, Charissa Howe, Reverend Charissa Howe, who is specialized at the jail, right?
Yeah, specialized ministry. I serve as the Director of Chaplaincy at the Allegheny County Jail. It's a large program that attends to the spiritual well-being of the inmates and the staff at the Allegheny County Jail. We're a division of the Foundation of Hope, and I've been there about a year now, and it's just been an absolute joy and delight to be serving in that specialized role.
Yeah. The reason why I've asked for Chris to come sit down and spend some time with me is because recently, I don't know if you guys know this or not, but GA is going on. And to our wonderment, to our just, we're so excited that you brought an overture, you and Mark, Reverend Mark brought an overture to GA, and it has passed.
It's passed committee. The committee has recommended it to GA, correct?
Yes. Yeah. And I thought it would be appropriate just for you to come on and just talk a little bit about that, and let our readers and listeners know what the saints, the pastors of our presbytery have been up to when it comes to justice.
Yeah.
So can you talk a little bit about your overture?
Yeah, I would love to do that. A while back, actually, Mark approached me after a COM meeting or an executive committee meeting or one of those things that gluttons for punishment get signed up for. And he had a look on his face that suggested he was going to ask to drag me into something that he was hatching. And I've had a fully formed no in my mind, ready to go for him. And then he started talking to me about an article he'd recently read about gun relinquishment protocols in cases of domestic violence and how infrequently those protocols are followed, how often the laws are left unheeded, unattended, and just the importance of this. And he said, just knowing what I know about your history and your passions, I think that you're the extra voice that I need in this. And so my fully formed no melted, and we've spent the past months working on this, connecting with community resources, crafting the overture, which passed in Pittsburgh in February, and passed committee at General Assembly, the Committee to Address Violence in the U.S. Passed on that committee on Saturday, and will be going to the full General Assembly with the committee's unanimous approval. Yeah,
which is wonderful. Charissa, what really spoke to me, and I just got to be honest, is your personal testimony. And I think that's of course why Mark came to you. Can you share a little bit about that and why this is important to you?
Yeah, so over 20 years ago, very young, found myself in a violent marriage. It was physically and emotionally abusive. And just due to the support of the friends and family I had around me, was able to leave that. But one of the things that has burned with me since that happened was the advice of a pastor at that time. And it was not a pastor in our presbytery, so I'll put that out there right now in case anyone's trying to figure out who it was. But the pastor said to me, well, maybe if you just tried to be a better wife, maybe if you tried to be more submissive, then things would be better. And didn't support the separation or protection of myself and my then very small child. And that has really stuck with me. I think the church has done a poor job even into 2022 of protecting victims of violence in the home. And so that's why this is so important for me. I think it needs to be important to all of our congregations. Pastors, elders, friends out there, look around your congregation, and at least one of the women in your congregation has been a victim of violence in the home. Statistically speaking, it's one of the most underreported crimes. And so this is really important if we're going to uphold our calling and our dedication to protecting the innocent and the vulnerable.
Can I just say thank you for the courage just to say out loud, to give your testimony. I think it is an act of grace for you to put it out there as raw as you have. So thank you for that. I really appreciate that. You have a little bit of information about the overture that I think would be important to share for our listeners, if you wouldn't mind reading a little bit of it.
Absolutely. I'm going to read the recommendation that was in the overture as it passed in Pittsburgh Presbytery, and then the amendment that it was passed with in the General Assembly Committee, and then talk a little bit about some of the statistics and why it's important and what this looks like for us. Our recommendation is that based on God's call for us to live in healthy relationships free of violence and coercion, and bearing in mind the proven efficacy of gun relinquishment procedures, Pittsburgh Presbytery overtures the 225th General Assembly of 2022 to 1. Endorse the National Resource Center on Domestic Violence and Firearms Gun Relinquishment Protocol. 2, educate congregations about this issue and make them aware of the resources available through the Presbyterians Against Domestic Violence Network. And 3, encourage church members to advocate in their presbyteries for removal of guns from domestic abusers. And the fourth recommendation that the committee added is encourage appropriate advocate entities, local churches, nonprofits, and/or presbyteries, to advocate and collaborate with court systems, law enforcement officials, and local domestic violence programs to ensure that weapon removal protocols are established and enforced. A lot of complicated language and big words in there. But really what this comes down to is that there are laws in place at a federal level and at many state levels that require relinquishment of firearms by anyone who is convicted of domestic violence or is the subject of a protection from abuse order. So if you've taken out a protection from abuse order against someone, they are technically supposed to relinquish any firearms that they have in the home. However, most municipalities and states do not have the policies and procedures in place to make that functionally happen. And so while that is a legal requirement, sometimes what happens is they just say, if you have firearms, you're supposed to turn them in, and leave it on the individual to actually turn those in.
Yes, ma'am.
And so that's really problematic. We're not asking for new laws to be put in place. We're not asking for gun registries or anything related to purchasing of firearms, simply that the laws that are in place now are upheld and are paid attention to. The reason for this, 1 in 4 women, I think I mentioned that statistic earlier, and 1 in 9 men will experience physical violence at the hands of an intimate partner during their lifetime. So if you look around you in your congregation and you see 4 women, one of them has probably been a victim of violence. And those numbers actually, unfortunately, increase in religious communities of various faiths.
Wow.
For a number of reasons that we don't have time to get into in a 10-minute
10-minute
interview.
Yes, ma'am.
The really troubling part is that in a home where there is violence and a firearm, the risk of homicide increases by 400%.
Wow.
In
400%?
400% greater risk of homicide.
I had not heard that. Oh my goodness.
In 2015, there were 1,352 intimate partner homicides in the United States. Almost all of those homicide victims were women, and more than 2/3 of those homicides are committed with guns. So this is a huge way we can impact the number of gun-related homicides and just injuries in general, right? Any gun-related violence by upholding laws that are already in place.
Charissa, I just looking over and seeing the things that the list for our Presbytery and then the amendment from the committee, it was a lot, as you said earlier. Those who are listening, if they could just take one thing from our time together today, what would you say? What would you say that just the next, a lot of times I hear from a lot of my brothers and sisters when we talk about justice work, they get stuck in the unknown. They get stuck in the, okay, well, what is my next step? If you can give them one thing, what would you say?
Yeah. So I think the biggest takeaway, especially for smaller congregations that don't already have a lot of social justice ministry in place, maybe want to get started, and this is a place for them to do that. Check out the Presbyterians Against Domestic Violence Network. We have within our denomination an entire organization that is already set up to address these issues and to help educate congregations and to help you learn how to participate in advocacy. So that would be the first place I would recommend churches get started, is just engaging with that organization.
That's wonderful. And then for GA, when do you know when it'll come up? Before?
I don't know. It'll be sometime soon.
Yeah.
Sometime very soon it'll be coming
For
up.
the next week or so.
Yeah.
With front of GA, right?
Yeah. And generally speaking, once something has passed through committee,
Mhm.
especially something like this, it's likely to go through General Assembly as well. So yeah, I know Mark and I are both grateful for everyone who has supported us in this. We're grateful to Pittsburgh Presbytery for supporting this and sending it through to the General Assembly and to the committee as well for taking it as seriously as they did.
Well, I know that I'll be praying for that to happen through General
Thank you.
Assembly. I'm hoping by the time that you all get a chance to see this, it will have passed through with overwhelming approval. And thank you, my sister, for just taking the time out to speak to all our brothers and sisters out there in the Presbytery and continue to do the great work that you're doing.
Absolutely,
I appreciate
absolutely.
it.
And if anyone has questions about it or wants to start getting engaged in this work, please don't hesitate to reach out to me. Everyone here in the Presbytery office knows where to find me if you don't already. So
That's right. Thank you, Charissa.
yeah, of course.
Appreciate you.